Oh, since retirement, oh my gosh, I'm just going to shoot from the hip here. And I would say I've probably done in the order of 15 to 20 backpack trips, and any number of ski trips. I've just gone on a number of backpack trips, hikes, road trips. It's just been an endless parade of these things.
Now, if you said maybe 15 to 20 and you've been retired for 19 months, that's like one a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to Midlife Dialogues, where I talk with people 50 and over who are doing interesting and inspiring things with their lives. And today I am talking to Homer Tom. Welcome, Homer. It's so nice to talk with you.
Hi, Leslie. I am thrilled to be here.
You are doing retirement like a boss, and I think it's really a lot of fun to hear about. But before we get to that, let's talk about where you've been. So you worked for Warner Brothers in Los Angeles. Tell us about that.
I worked for Warner Brothers Studios for over 32 years, and it was just a fantastic experience there to work for an entertainment company. I learned so much from just seeing how a creative environment operates that I just took a lot from that. But it was time to leave the company. So after 32 years, I bid adieu to the company and I embarked upon retirement, and it's just been fantastic. And now that I'm retired, it's a full-time vacation.
I know. Well, we'll get to that. It really is. It's fun to watch. What did you do? What was your job at Warner Brothers?
I did a number of things, of course, as you might imagine, over 32 years, but I was in the IT department, working for corporate IT functions like application support and networks and service desk. I saw so much of the studio. I felt like I just got a broad exposure to the way a studio works, all from an IT perspective, which was my major in college. So I felt like I really got a career in my chosen field, yet it was such a fun experience to work in a Hollywood creative environment.
I bet. So give us a flavor of what it was like to work there on a film studio.
Working at a studio is so much fun in a number of ways. I guess the most obvious one is the people you run into, especially in the older days, in the 90s when I first started. That was when ER was really big at Warner Brothers, as was Friends and a number of other TV shows that are just so memorable to everybody. And to go to the cafeteria and to have lunch and you see George Clooney there having lunch, or you see the stars of Friends right there, or George Clooney was also or is also a big basketball player, so he's out there in front of the gym playing basketball, shooting hoops with Eric LaSalle. Another thing about the cafeteria is, of course, all the extras would go there to eat, and sometimes they were in full makeup. In the case of ER, they were there as victims of some horrible accident. So I'd see people in bloody bandages and in casts and whatever, and they're sitting there just chatting away normally, having lunch. You just see all of the sets being dressed, whether they're sound stages or the back lot, and it was just fantastic to go there. And if any of you remember the TV show The Waltons, I used to go and have lunch right there on the Walton Ranch, just right there on the patio, and I'd just sit in a rocking chair and have lunch and think, this is where The Waltons was filmed.
That must have been so interesting. Much more interesting than a desk job in some big office building, right?
Well, I was in a desk job in a big office building, but it was on the lot. So I could look outside my window and I would see the tour carts go by, or I'd see the sets being dragged over to the back lot, all of the dressings and all of the things being carted over. In fact, the lobby of my building was oftentimes the lobby of a hotel or of a hospital. So it was pretty amazing to be there and just to be in a creative environment. And I remember one time I left my building pretty late at night and I walked out and I'm right there on the set of one of the Batman theatrical movies, one of the George Clooney Batmans, and he was there in front of the Batmobile.
What an interesting job that must have been. When exactly did you retire? How long has that been now?
I retired in January of 2023. So as we speak, it's been about 19 months I've been retired.
But who's counting? I like that you know how many months it is.
So retirement was actually part of my master plan. I had worked with a financial planner for a number of years in preparation for retirement. And my goal, just pulling a number out of the air in best case, I thought, okay, let's try to retire at age 60. And I was a little bit unsure that I could do that. But the year I turned 60, I was getting ready to retire. But of course, I was a little bit nervous about it. But at the same time, Warner Brothers was being sold off by AT&T. AT&T and being purchased by Discovery. So I thought it might be advantageous for me just to stick around a little bit longer because usually when these corporate takeovers happen, there are job eliminations. And in the corporate world, when there is a job elimination, there's oftentimes a severance. And in my case, since I had been with the company for 30 plus years, I thought it would really be to my advantage to stick around for a little bit. So I did work beyond my birthday. I turned 60 and I just waited a little bit longer. And it was getting closer to the end of the year, at the end of 2020. I'm sorry, the end of 2022, when I was still employed and there was no job elimination in my department. And I was getting a little bit worried. And I was this close to just pulling the plug and saying, see you later. I am going to quit my job and retire. But within 1 week of me pulling the plug on my own, it happened where my job was eliminated. And I was called into the HR department and I was just so thrilled. I just could not help smiling and just laughing because I was really just ready to leave at that point. So that really just it started off everything on the right foot with my retirement. And I have not looked back since.
That's a great story. It's like a nice parting bonus. Like, oh, you're done. Here's a whole bunch of money. What a nice surprise. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been telling people it's like hitting the jackpot and it's better than any retirement party or gold watch.
Tell me about your last day of work. What was that like?
Well, this was during the pandemic, of course. I had already emptied my office years before, so I was working remotely. My final day was just a Zoom meeting with my HR rep and my VP, and they just called me up and said, "Here's your severance. You've had a chance to review the letter. Do you have any questions?" I said no, so that was it. It was pretty anticlimactic. It wasn't very emotional or, there was no big party and nobody was sending me off. So I don't think it was your typical type of retirement or, leaving a company. But as I said, I would much rather have that severance than any kind of party.
Right. After you got off that Zoom call, how did you feel? What did you
Oh my
do?
gosh. Well, it was actually the day before Christmas. So it was December 23rd, so 2 days before Christmas. So it didn't really sink in that I had retired until a few weeks later, right until after the holidays. I had a chance to settle down, and that's when it really sunk in.
Yeah, when everybody else is sort of done with the holiday and getting ready to go back to their routine, you didn't have that routine. You got to start a new one. So I have been really impressed with how busy you have kept yourself doing things that you love to do. I know that you are very into hiking and outdoors stuff, and you even work with the Sierra Club. Give me an idea of the extent of how many hiking and other trips like that you've taken since retiring.
Oh, since retirement, oh my gosh, I'm just going to shoot from the hip here. And I would say I've probably done in the order of 15 to 20 backpack trips, and any number of ski trips. And these are a combination of both a trip where I am a leader for the Sierra Club. So they are official outings and I have people with me, participants with me, and I'm responsible for their safety, as well as private trips with my friends, who many of them are also Sierra Clubbers, as you might imagine, but other friends as well. I've just gone on a number of backpack trips, hikes, road trips. It's just been an endless parade of these things.
Yeah, that's great. Now, if you said maybe 15 to 20 and you've been retired for 19 months, that's like one a month.
Yeah, exactly. As well as my instruction with the Sierra Club. I'm an instructor with the Sierra Club. I teach a 10-week program that explains the basics of safety outdoors. So in a classroom setting, we meet for 10 weeks, once a night or once a week for 10 weeks. And then we have a number of outings as well, 4 outings during those 10 weeks. So that keeps me busy January through March. And then I found myself skiing almost nonstop in April of these last 2 years. And then the middle months in the summer is a little bit hot, but that gives me other opportunities to go elsewhere, to go up to Washington State, for example, or Northern California, or go on a road trip somewhere. I've done all of those things.
That's just great. Tell us a little more about this class that you teach with Sierra Club. How did you get into that, and what's fulfilling about that for you?
So I was raised a city kid, born and raised in LA, never really did anything outdoors. So I felt really kind of sheltered. But as I was in my 20s, I became friends with people who were really into the outdoors. And they said, okay, let's start doing some hikes. And, the hikes were fantastic. And then car camping. And then I ended up doing some backpacks because they said, well, let's go do Mount Whitney. And I didn't really know what was involved involved in preparation or skills to do Mount Whitney. So the three of us decided to go to Mount Whitney. None of us were really skilled. We just kind of put together the few things that we thought we needed, and we went and tried to do Mount Whitney. Operative word being tried, because we did things almost completely wrong. So in many ways, it's fortunate that we did not have any kind of serious incident, but we did not summit. And I realized that, oh, I need to get some skills. I need to really find out what it is I've missed, because I was never a Boy Scout. I never did these things with my parents or other people. So I did hear about the Sierra Club, and they offered this program where for 10 weeks they teach you the basics, the 10 essentials, and that we cover the 10 essentials, which includes food and clothing and your gear and your tent and your sleeping bag, as well as some navigation skills, map and compass, as well as looking at the terrain around you and understanding what the map is telling you versus what the real world is showing you, and how to go back and forth between the two. So it's those skills I learned in that class that really opened up the world to me, literally opened up the world to me to get outdoors. And after going off on my own, after completing the class myself, I did that for a number of years where I went off and did trips with my friends, that I realized that, oh my gosh, this is such an important skill. And I loved my instructors from my student year. I want to go back and join them and be part of their group and teach other people how to do that. So I have been now an instructor for 15 years. And as a result, every year I meet a new set of people and I get to take them outdoors. And it's so thrilling, Leslie, to take these students out and see the light turn on for them when they realize, oh my gosh, I can get out to the outdoors and it's not as scary as I thought. Or I survived snow camp. That's our final camping outing, where we go and camp in the snow for 2 nights. And it's just so amazing, especially with the navigation piece too, where they struggle. They say, I can't read the map, or I can't identify these things in the field. What are they? But, with a little bit of practice and with guidance from instructors like me, the light eventually does turn on, at least to some degree, and they gain so much confidence to get out there. So it's so empowering to have taken this course and to get out there. So I feel like I'm giving back in that regard, and I'm so happy to be doing it with the Sierra Club.
Yeah, that's great. That really sounds great. Tell us what you do at Yosemite.
Yeah, so in addition to my work with the Sierra Club in Los Angeles, I have also been a volunteer for the last 12 years in Yosemite, where the Sierra Club runs a building in Yosemite Valley. It's real close to Curry Village. It is a National Historic Landmark because it was built in the early 1900s. And such notables such as John Muir and Ansel Adams, and oh my gosh, just a long list of people have been there, and they were part of the first people who organized the Sierra Club. So they founded the Sierra Club, and they would lead trips there out of this building. It's just an architectural gem. It looks like a little bit of a Gothic miniature castle right at the base of these granite cliffs, and it's made out of granite, so it fits in just so perfectly with Yosemite Valley. So I go there and spend 1 week each summer as a volunteer for the Sierra Club, and I greet people who come into this building. I really light up when they ask me questions about Yosemite, or they ask me about, where can I go hike? I want to go see some of these waterfalls, or if they're really interested in the backpacking. Over the years, I've done so many backpack trips in Yosemite. I feel like I can give them some expert advice on where do you want to go backpacking.
That sounds fun. I want to ask you next about what you've been calling the reunion tour, which makes me laugh. And, full disclosure, your visit to me is part of the reunion tour, and we are actually talking and recording this from different rooms in my house, which I also think is fun. Anyway, where did you get the idea to take what you're calling a reunion tour, and what is it?
It sort of started organically. It wasn't something I planned. And I realized that, oh my gosh, it's been so many years. I feel like I've lost touch with a lot of people. And I've come across so many fantastic people, present company included. It's like, oh my gosh, I should just reach out to these people and just see what they're doing. It just started off maybe even last year, early in retirement. I went up to Washington State and did a kayak trip over in the San Juan Islands with a friend who actually worked at Warner Brothers as well, worked on Friends, and I hadn't seen him since the days of Friends. So I reached out to him and we did a fantastic kayak trip. So that planted the bug in me to reach out to my friends. So whether they were work friends that I'd lost touch with over, the 30 years, but beyond that, older than that, my high high school friends I reached out to and my college friends. I'm an ordained minister and I have done a number of weddings over the years. And I had realized at one point that I hadn't really talked to these people, even though I did their weddings, going back as far as 20 years ago. So I started reaching out to a lot of different people and I started out with just emails and then phone calls and, these opportunities came up. And this trip right now is sort of like that. I came out to Hawaii to spend time with my nephew, who is starting his second year at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. And I thought I'd come out here and also see my college football team play. So I saw that and I realized, oh my gosh, Leslie is just one island or a couple of islands over. And the beginning of August was sort of similar, where I was going to do a trip up to the Lost Coast, which is a fantastic backpacking trip on the northern coast of California. It's a long drive. It's called the Lost Coast for a reason. I thought, well, as long as I'm going up to the Northern California, I'll be driving through San Francisco. Let me get in touch with a number of my friends in the Bay Area whom I haven't seen in a while, including the very first couple I married. So I went and contacted them. And then I was looking at my calendar and I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm already going to be in the Mammoth Lakes area, which is in Central California on the eastern side, to attend a blues festival. And just one idea led to another. And next thing I knew, what was supposed to be just a 3-night trip to the Lost Coast turned into a 2-week road trip where I did a number of things driving up California to the eastern side up to Mammoth before the Blues Festival, and then over to the Bay Area. I visited 4 sets of friends up there and then did the Lost Coast. And then, by the way, on the way back down to Southern California, I stopped and did an overnight trip over in the Point Reyes National Seashore. So it's just all of these places that are almost like bucket list items or outdoor adventures or friends that I figured, oh, I should do that someday. Well, that day's now. And here was a perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that just sounds great. That's so wonderful. What's important to you about your time now that you don't have to go into work anymore?
Well, it's probably obvious to say that it's my time, right? Yeah, I get to choose what it is I'm doing, what my focus is, and I could take as long as I want to on some of these things. Now, I do have a number of projects I thought I'd be working on around the house, yet I haven't started them yet. And I have a lot of books I've been wanting to dive into, and I haven't started yet. But it's important to me to have that luxury of time. Really, I think a lot of what has driven my last few months of retirement, or all of my months of retirement, has been opportunities just arise. And I just leverage these opportunities and say, oh, if I do this, I can do this other thing along with it. So it just sparks all of these ideas. So there's a level of spontaneity as well that I'm just totally thriving and loving, because I never really had that sense of spontaneity before.
Right. It's fun to watch.
One of the very first things I did upon retirement is, well, first of all, I had to complete the 10 weeks of teaching this course, which runs January through March of each year. And then last year, when the class ended, there happened to be the wildflowers blooming in Southern California. And for those people who don't know about the wildflower blooms in Southern California, the poppies and other flowers, you have to go there pretty quickly because their bloom is very short, very brief. And oftentimes, if you go on the weekend, it's super crowded, long lines of cars and lots of people trampling over the poppies. So the great thing I just got a kick out of was like, oh, the bloom is starting this week. I'm just going to go midweek. I'm just going to go and get in my car and find a campsite and go see the wildflowers. So I did that for 3 days.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Homer. This has been really fun to hear about. And thanks everybody for listening to Midlife Dialogues. Next time, we'll talk to Homer more about how he's created and embraced this stage of his retirement life. See you next time.